Firstly, I will talk about the comments put forward about the ID card last Monday. The Prime Minister has proposed the idea of an ID card for the convenience of the public. But if you look at their blatant disregard of privacy and security, these ID cards are quite clearly for the convenience of criminals. Whilst they have assured that coded levels of access will be used to maintain security, the government itself admitted, and I quote, that there is no way to guarantee security 100%. Well, we at the Party of Law and Order don't believe that anything short of a guarantee is good enough for the families of incognito. Why entrust the government with access to all of that information on the one card if they can't even assure its safety? The government mentions very broadly that they will not release the card until the information has been assessed on all levels. Well, Prime Minister, what are these levels, and when are you going to start caring about the families of incognito enough to actually address these security concerns? The Prime Minister assured us that only officials would be able to gain access to the information on these cards. Who are these officials, and what justifies the term officials? What happens if a corrupt policeman decides to share some of the information he or his colleagues have accessed through the ID card? There have been cases all over the world of officials selling information on privately in the interest of others. There is no such thing as a hack-proof system, and holding everybody's information on a database that can be accessed by any sort of official that is not 100% secure is nothing short of reckless. And we have Mr. Teddy Roosevelt spending taxpayers' money to fly to Europe and speak with overseas banks about the ID card and its technology. But if, like the government has promised, that there will be no transaction records on the cards, why would the Minister speak with a company that does the complete opposite? The ID card is only given to citizens, but there are a lot of other people residing in Australia who may not be deemed as citizens, and why should they not have access to this card if it's of such convenience? And why, if this card is of such great convenience, should this only be restricted to citizens above the age of 18? If the government trusted the card's safety, there is no reason for the children of incognito to miss out on this opportunity, especially those going for a driver's licence. So either the Prime Minister does not trust her own system, or she does not care about the children of our great nation. A short Austrian man with a funny little moustache once imposed these ID cards to all of his German citizens in 1939, and we all know how that worked out. So now we'll talk about the wireless city. The wireless city proposed by the government is a disaster in the making, and I will not stand by as our government spins lies and assumptions to try and propose this dangerous project. The Minister for Education said that technology commentators gave their praise of the QR code. Well, Minister, where and who are these technology commentators, and why are you only speaking to technology commentators rather than getting insightful information about the catastrophic effect this will have on our economy? The Prime Minister stated that the wireless city is the same system that already exists in smartphones. So firstly, what's the point for this one city to have this, as businesses that find it necessary can perhaps create an app? And secondly, why are we assuming that every tourist has a smartphone? Yes, it's a growing industry, but to base the whole country's economic future on the assumption that every tourist has a smartphone is not only a risk, but a disaster. Looking at the government's proposed wireless city highlights their complete ignorance and lack of research when it comes to projects of such a large scale. It is quite clear that if this was to go ahead, incognito would be sent back into the economical dark ages, a hole in which we would not be able to get out of. This wireless city is wasting taxpayers' money and throwing not only businesses but large employment sectors out on the street. If this system lifted off, the imposed fee posted by the government will run small businesses into the ground. It is essentially forcing owners to pay the fee or fall behind. Think of a second-generation family-run corner shop who are trying to lift themselves back up after tough economic times. Every cent is precious, and the government come in demanding a fee for this code in which they can't afford, and perhaps the BP down the street can afford this fee, therefore giving them even more coverage than the locally owned corner shop. Why should BP, a big international company that send their profits offshore, benefit from being able to afford these QR codes when our local stores will be run into the ground even further by Ms Spears and her government? How is this implementation of the quoting system supposed to be fair on struggling businesses? And let's just say some of these bigger businesses who are perhaps relied upon decided not to fund the exercise, seeing it as an unnecessary cost. Firstly, it seems like it would not be able to fund itself, and secondly, it seems like this system only works if every business is a part of it. So if it does not lift off, the whole thing is a giant failure and quite unnecessary. But if it did go ahead as the government planned, Teddy Roosevelt said that having this means companies will have, and I quote, no need to advertise anymore. Whilst this is perhaps the most ambitious statement ever heard, if it is the government's goal to eradicate the need for advertising, then they quite clearly have no knowledge of Australia's employment industry. Incognita's employment industry and the ramifications associated with eliminating advertising. Because whilst it can be agreed that the IT positions will open up because of the implementation of Wireless City, the incognito advertising industry will fold. Newspapers exist only because of advertising. Radio exists only because of advertising. A lot of websites exist only because of advertising, and TV exists only because of advertising. So if Mr. Roosevelt truly believes that this will cause businesses to cease advertising, then we will see one of the biggest employment sectors in the country simply implode. So Ms. Spears, why don't you target the problem of thousands of job losses rather than the tagging of birds and trees? The government have no peripheral vision when it comes to important issues and cannot be trusted with a pair of scissors, let alone taking on projects that will determine the future and ultimate demise of our great nation. Thank you.